I'm sure you can understand why our beloved parent company, Warner Brothers, has decided to make a sequel to the trilogy.
What?
They informed me they're going to do it with or without us.
People would always say to me, is there going to be another Matrix just on people on the street or... And I would think, no, absolutely not. Never in a million years.
One day I got I don't know if it was a text or an email.
It's Lana. Call me when you can.
How's it going? I'm thinking about it. And I was like, what?
You're never going to believe it, but I wrote this script.
She basically, asked me how would I feel about that. I went, yes.
I literally went home and told my husband, I think I just started crying. I was just so excited about the possibility.
Yes.
These years, to be going back to where it all started. Back to the Matrix.
I never wanted to go back into the trilogy. I thought when it was done, and it was like so nice, why would you ever touch it? And then personal things happened. I lost my parents. And all my life, struggling with gender and complicatedness of being a transgendered person in this society that is so hard on transgendered people, I use stories and imagination as a way to soothe myself and a way to live in the world that felt more comfortable. Books, fantasy was always super important to me through my whole life. And in the grief that I was experiencing with my parents dying, my brain one night just resurrected Neon Trinity, and it was instantly soothing. It's just like the way art is. It can really soothe us in times of pain. And then what was interesting was that my brain wanted to have them alive, but it wanted to do it in a way that was clever. And to make it somewhat more synonymous with my own life in the way that Warner Brothers has been trying to get Lily and I to make a Matrix sequel for years and years and years and years, and we kept saying no, 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 not interested, not interested, not interested. And then suddenly that became a part of the story. And then the realness of that, inside the fakeness of the Matrix, that became exciting.
Lana, Sasha and I assembled around a table, and Lana brought quite a lot of ideas.
We started writing plot points on cards, just laying the cards on the table.
And for about a week or so, began to get the itch to turn these cards into scenes.
I would say, I'll take card from this card to this card and I'll write this.
We bring our scenes back, we read through them. Lana fits them into the larger schema of the film.
Some scenes are 7 pages. There should be 1. Some of them are even longer, some of them are shorter.
Ideas we thought in the early days might be really strong, but just don't belong in the movie. Or they mutate into other ideas, or we get a great scene in Act 3 that's gorgeous and has to be there, but this will negate or require changes earlier on in the film. So we work like that.
The idea would pass through everyone, just move within this imaginary space, which we started somehow calling the pit. And then quickly, a kind of terminology developed related to that. Like, people start saying, let me throw it into the pit, right? Let's spin it in the pit, and so on.
We just found it useful to avoid the adjective you. Once you start talking about your idea, or what you said, or what you think, that's just it's potentially sometimes the beginning of disharmony.
Because there's this energy that comes from this joining of the minds. It's not the sum, it's this energy that is created, and a sense of thinking with other people's minds.
We start writing, and we have this whole idea, and then suddenly energy just happens, and it starts evolving and changing, and things that you couldn't have imagined suddenly become possible only if you let go of all of the old ideas.
Is this old Matrix code?
We wanted elements from the trilogy back, but why do the same story? And why just do one more in a row?
It's not a 4th rectangle in a series of rectangles, but rather it's a rectangle that encompasses all previous rectangles.
Freeze! Do not move! We will shoot!
You come into the movie into the modal. It's essentially a run-through of our first encounter with the Matrix was.
That was Lana's idea. When she came to us, this is the scene that she had in mind. They would start as a video game, and it would be kind of replicate the opening of the trilogy.
The modal in the film is a program that has been written by Thomas Anderson in the present day. It's based on his big hit, The Matrix trilogy of games, and we enter this modal with a curious young captain called Bugs, who has detected something that looks a little bit like the code from the beginning of the Neo story, which for them in the future is this mythical, legendary, quasi-messianic story.
We know the story. This is how it all began.
It's kind of self-referential, or it's self-referencing, but there's something different about it too.
Yeah.
You know, this idea of memory, fiction. And when does memory become a fiction, and does it matter?
So what's it like made The Matrix? Even I've heard of that.
Yeah, we kept some kids entertained.
So worth it?
I mean, I love the fact that Neo is now living in a world where the Matrix is known and is a thing, because that is our world. The Matrix is known and is a thing.
The packet in front of you has our focus group research. Inside, you'll find the breakdown, including key word association with the brand. The top two being originality and fresh.
There's this whole sequence where they're making the game of Matrix 4, so it's the idea and pressure of making a fourth Matrix in the script of the fourth Matrix. It's so meta.
Matrix is mind-born, philosophy and shiny, type BBC.
Yeah, ideas are the new sexy.
This is me writing my experience of the last 20 years of everybody telling me what the Matrix means.
Obviously, the Matrix is about
Transpolitics.
Crypto-fascism.
It's a metaphor
Of capitalist exploitation.
bullet time.
And I wanted to mock them. But I also want to suggest the magic of art, that it has all of these meanings, and all of those meanings are true.
We spent 5 months concepting this film. Lana, from early on, had ideas that she wanted this to look different. Similar to The Matrix, but not The Matrix.
You've got to remember that the basis of our story is that the first 3 films were games and not films. And so consequently, the look of a game could be different to the look of reality, and we're in reality. And although we have an essence of the Matrix, we're actually living in a real world. Although it's not the real world, it's the Matrix.
The art department, they were possibly the only department that didn't bring the legacy and the burden of it's the Matrix.
Yeah,
right?
Even though they were like the most precise about what we had done. And so they were, in some ways, the keeper of the old ways more than anybody else, but it was never precious.
Lana likes the idea that they're red in the core, right? Yeah. But to keep the light off the back, we'll put some cables in front of that to make a little barrier between Seg's chair and the core.
Well, obviously we didn't want to lose the essence of the Matrix. However, the tonal colours are not quite as strong as they were originally in the Matrix. The first film was particular in the colour contrast between the Matrix and the real world, whereas in our film it's far softer. There's not so much separation between the two worlds.
Lana has freed up the Matrix world in that it's not just green anymore. This time we've put a lot more colour.
Am I crazy? We don't use that word in here.
Beautiful take, beautiful. You got it? Unstoppable.
One of the things that has been most interesting to me in this entire process is watching Lana's cinematic evolution. To see things going from very static and intentionally lit, everything being very much like a graphic novel, to what she does now, which seems to be following instinct more and being able to move so fluidly.
When I talked to Lana about her process, of making this film, she talked about being very, very strict in her first film. Knowing exactly every single shot that she was going to do before it was done, being very methodical, very meticulous about each and every frame of the movie.
There would be questions sometimes to them of like, well, how many SFX squibs do you want and where do you want them in the walls, which is a common question as you plan these things. And they would point to the storyboard and go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's where they are. So everything was sort of drawn up. Everything was very, very ordered.
Lily and I were very precise directors when we first began. It was a way to kind of feel like you had control over the day, all of the crazy circumstances. You wanted to be prepared and you wanted to know exactly what you were going to go after. And uncertainty in those days was much more complicated for me. I was not out of the closet yet, nor was she. And so uncertainty was something that just gave me so much intense anxiety around that I channeled my artist side into somebody who wanted to control every tiny little detail.
Back on Reloaded and Revolutions, we almost never left the studio. Very, very rarely. There was something about the controlled environment of a soundstage with lights that, are fixed and that could be there day in, day out, nothing changes. You don't have to deal with the variability of the weather or the position of the sun. Everything is meticulously planned and there when you need it.
In the beginning, I was terrified of the sun because you couldn't control it. It's so unpredictable. You never know what the sun is going to give you. You never know how it's going to bounce, what magic quantum thing it's going to bring to an image. And so I loved movie lights. I loved fake lights. And the trilogy is full of fake lights. It's fake lighting everywhere. And I liked a kind of flatness to light. I grew up in Chicago, and I think the grayness of Chicago made me really love the non-dimensionality of flat light. And there's funny things that are in the Matrix, like bullet time, which is this famous shot that goes around a person on the top of a building, but you never see the sun. It's like the one angle where you would start to sort of imagine where you would see the sun. The camera goes up, so you look down at the ground, and then it comes back and around. And then I met John Toll, and John Toll is this beautiful artist, and he taught me to love the sun. And loving the sun, that led me into loving uncertainty. And when an actor brings some magic to a moment in the sun, and they all form this thing that you could not possibly imagine, that for me is like the greatest energy and the greatest thrill.
So now we have gone from, lighting plans, which, everyone used to pore over for days and days and days. Now the thing you pore over is the sun path map, right? Where's the sun? Where's the sun go? Where's it going to be between 11:15 and 11:18?
Waiting for a perfect light window in San Francisco and having the character look out like Smith once did. With Morpheus, like, look at it. Just look how perfect it is,
Every time I stand here, I mean, OMG.
So stunningly beautiful, the reflections of the sun in the buildings.
It's so perfect, it's gotta be fake.
And yet that's being presented as artificiality. So that's part of the mind bend now, too. It's like the Matrix is getting closer to home. On the first 3 Matrixes, my experience was the Wachowskis behind a monitor. But she's now an artist who's interested in natural light, who wants to be next to the camera, and who literally connects herself to the camera and becomes this other thing, which I've never seen before.
I want to be right next to the actor. I want to be right with the camera. I want to feel the camera. I want to feel and be. The camera's always rolling, I'm always moving, we're always looking, we're always changing. You're just trying to catch moments and catch beauty, and you see something and it's just there for a second, especially when the sun is out and blazing and it's perfect for 20 minutes, and you try to shoot an entire 6-page dialogue scene in just like these few minutes, and you capture wide shot, medium shot, close up, all the things you need in this improvisational way.
The setting gives you absolute freedom to put the camera wherever you want it, wherever you need it and keep it moving or do whatever. Me and her together, you know, she can whisper in my ear, we go that way, we do that, we do the follow, you know, and everything happens very quickly.
And it required Daniele to be okay with me basically laying on him, which is like the Steadicam is already like this gigantic, humongous, heavy piece of equipment. And then like I would like just hang and drape and like be on top of him. And we became sort of a four-legged creature.
She's also pulling focal length, so she can come in, come out. So she might start in a wide, come into a medium. She might pick up different things. Then when she's close, she'll start directing close-ups.
And I just loved it. I loved being able to be that close to everything and to be able to talk and be right there and make adjustments and touch.
Actually works. I think it's very effective, very efficient, I would say.
I'm not getting kind of formal idea, plan and shoot, review, is it super perfect? On the first 3 Matrix films, that idea of super perfect for me was born. Because I had the chance to train, prepare, go, and then review. So I could look at a playback and I could be a part of why we needed to do the 83 takes because I wasn't super perfect. I kind of internalized that and wanted to be that. That's why I was there, right? The experience on Resurrections is that process is not available. But I'm a little more experienced than I was back then. And I went to that school, so I know what that is. So there are times where I don't necessarily need to see it to know if it was super perfect or not. But that's still what I'm going for. The action to me is expressing the character. And I think it's also part of the fun of the films. But it's definitely different. So it's not prepare, shoot, review. Now it's be ready, in the moment, go.
And headlights.
Cool. Take a tiny moment to see the headlight, feel the headlight, like, oh shit, you don't know, you know, and then decide.
The way that Lana works now is definitely the way that I like to work. It reminds me of being in like acting class and your teacher, you know, the teacher's throwing ideas at you. I love that kind of environment.
Thomas? You don't get to rehearse much. You're in it and you're going.
That's more.
She's definitely the most fascinating director I've ever worked with. The way that she runs a set, she doesn't cut. We do long running takes, 20, 30 minutes of just one scene without cutting. And I like that because it keeps the rhythm of the set and it keeps you on your toes because you think it could be their coverage, but she could just swivel the camera around and suddenly it's your coverage. So you have to really be on your A game.
You can do the whole scene, then do the whole scene again, then just do the second part of the scene, say this line again, say it a different way, move the camera over here, now we're gonna say it like that, and you're just all over the place. It's just unusual for any filmmaking that I've done before.
There are as many people who believe you saved Zion as believe you collaborated with the machines to build a bigger, better Matrix.
Still, there's a lot that hasn't changed. She's very specific on how she wants to hear certain lines, certain energy, certain tone.
Yeah, you almost know it's gonna happen.
So she likes to try different approaches to scenes and to lines. And that's always been the case, where it's just like, no, try it a little more gruff now,
And at the same time, there is a freedom which was extraordinary to discover. A freedom in Lana that was completely different. It's a different way of filming, and it's a different way of dealing with the fights. It's a lighter way of making cinema. It's something that doesn't have the weight of how things were done in Australia in 2001.
She doesn't have a shot list at all. I don't think she knows what she's gonna do until she shows up.
She has a kind of confidence in herself as a filmmaker, knowing that she can pull off the most technically difficult sequences imaginable. I mean, car chases and helicopter attacks and huge fight scenes. She doesn't storyboard it.
On action, it goes straight into the shot.
Yeah, I think on action, you guys just look at each other and...
She wants to get inspired on set, the way people are moving and the way the light is. And as an actor, it's really exciting to work in that way because we're all figuring it out in the moment, and that's really fun.
Now that's a very confusing way, it would seem, to make a film with this much magnitude. Because it just feels intrinsically like with 70 stunt people in a small room that everything would have to be storyboard drawn. Every shot would have to be done in animatics where they put them in computers already and you can see exactly what it's going to look like and you're just banging out the content. But it doesn't happen like this.
Set. And 2, 1, go.
You plan, but you don't like 100% go with the plan. Sometimes you go with the feel. It's kind of hard, difficult for actors because she may change anytime. So you have to be prepared.
Ready and action.
So me and Keanu, we all figure out you have to like 120 prepare. So you plan to do this, okay, I do this. All right, I can do all this, no problem. But now you have to training more. If there's something change, you already been training. It's okay, we can change right away. So yeah, I think Keanu can do that, no problem.
It's so cool to see that every fight scene in a movie has a different taste, visual-wise. So every fight scene is 100% different. And that's cool, you don't see that in most movies, because they stick to one dogma. Every fight is a scene, has to mean something. Also, every punch has a meaning. It has to affect you.
With Lana, she's like, okay, everything what you're doing has to be a meaning. Yeah. It's not just a punch, it's not just a walk over there. You have to be very aware with everything, because it's coming a note from Lana and then you have to adapt or react.
Yes, 100%.
Or it would change, like, oh, maybe it makes more sense if Keanu will be on the chair or on the table, and everything changed. Yeah, it was intense when we had the night shoots in San Francisco. We had the car chase and then all the swarms came.
It's planned, so we have an idea, and then all the swarms are just coming, and it's kind of an improvisation. And that's what I learned from Lana, and what I also love about her is that she starts seeing things in the moment, in the process, and then she is saying always a phrase, yeah, what we learned from that, okay, cool. So and then we go further, and this kind of work style and flow is harsh sometimes for people, because you get kicked out of your comfort zone. But this is what I like.
Thing that you never get on movies like this is this improv style, right? In fact, it's gone the other way. All the movies that The Matrix is the mother of, now they all shoot in a green box. The thing that we did 20 years ago, they all do now, and that's kind of why they all look exactly the same. So I think when this film comes out, people are just gonna go, that's not The Matrix.
I couldn't have done it any other way when I was that young. Lily and I couldn't have made it any other way. But now I know so much about every single aspect of filmmaking. I can improvise in a way that allowed us to shoot this wild, crazy chase with 1,000 extras that Warner Brothers is like out of their minds. It's, you know, you can't do this, it'll never do that, you'll never be able to do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And we just said, you know, we don't do it like that anymore. We don't make previs, and we shot it in 6 nights.
We literally went away while we were waiting for darkness to fall, and we went to a restaurant and we said, well, they're all back there wondering what we're going to do, so why don't we map it out? So we had a napkin in the restaurant.
It's like a joke.
It was like a joke. You know, and we drew the cars and the helicopters, and then we went back to them, and there we go. Here it is. This is what we're doing tonight.
One of the great scores of all time, in my opinion, is the Matrix score, of the trilogy score. I think it's fantastic music, and what's particularly fantastic about it is that then it was one of the first, if not the first, score that so implemented electronic music and connected it with substantial late modern orchestral music. A big orchestra met massively intense, high-octane production electronic music. And that fusion was fresh and had not been done much. It started a movement, I think, and I was part of that movement. So now it is about paying tribute to it and yet free it a bit from its patterns, because it was made for that film that had a different stylistic frame, you know, a very solid frame, while this one has more of a fluid frame, you know. It's like, seems like open in every kind of direction, which needs to be represented in the music, of course. It was really nice. Can we jump to the next 1:30 to the other section? The pre-scoring, people don't understand, why would you want music before you film? And I would always say, well, why would you not want it, you know? You know, I became a film composer only because in the beginning, when I was a filmmaker and we didn't have any money for films, you know, we put everything in those films and then, you know, they're done, they're filmed, and you sit in the editing room and you go, oh, where are we going to get the music from? And there was no way to...
I guess I'll just make it myself.
No, but I mean...
That's an amazing cue right there.
No, it was really because we couldn't afford to ask even anybody. And I realized that I had actually music in my mind. I had it all the time, and I carried it around. And I mean, that was my short film times. I said, well, let's try it myself. So I tried it, and it was actually a super satisfying process. And I discovered that actually music and the way into the music is something that makes me understand what kind of film I want to make. And that led to this process that I don't want to sit there at the end of shooting with the material and not have any music at hand that's not already planned for the film. So I developed this method which some people do but most don't, that we have substantial composing sessions and recording sessions prior to shooting. And I introduced Lana to the method.
The Tickfer method, trademark.
Well, which is true emancipation as a filmmaker. You know, when you get to learn Tom's method, right? Because like for those people who don't know, when you sit down, like Tom was just saying, at the end of shooting everything, and then you decide on the music, you go and you magpie from everyone else's other scores that have been previously published, and try and attach it to your scene, which is an insanity when you know this method.
When the editor sits down in editorial, they work with music that has been conceptually conceived for this project, which doesn't mean it's done, you know, it's not final, but he doesn't take elements from anything else. We have a big pool of directions we can go with this material.
It's like everything that's come before to this present, and it's being synthesized and practiced in a way that you have to be a master filmmaker to make a film like this, period.
It's such a testament to Lana and her vision and her brilliance and the team that she has around her that we're able to do this and be in this, doing this together. I mean, every day I'm so grateful.
The Matrix changed our lives, and it taught us something really profound about making art. Making art is transformational. If you bring your heart and everything in it, it changes you. And so we wanted to come back at the end and have this sort of testament to what we've learned. That's what's in this film.
Where was it?
Yeah, like,
it was like at the studio somewhere.
Was it Warner's?
I think it was. It was like,
what did we do?
It was my birthday.
It was your birthday. Did we run scenes?
Yeah, we did that. You know, I know.
Oh, right.
I know you can't sleep.
Right. So we did the like Neo and Trinity, Thomas Anderson meet
Yeah, meets Trinity scene.
Right. They shot it on film, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to remember the first time we met. And when we did the
Screen test.
the screen test, how long was that before we did the training?
Before we started training for the movie?
Yeah.
Well, I think I found out I got the part like 2 weeks later. I was supposed to find out on a Friday.
Right.
And then they asked for an extra week.
An extra
they weren't
week?
sure.
They weren't sure?
They weren't sure.
What were they thinking?
Before we got started, we decided to stop by to say thank you. You gave us something we never thought we could have.
And what is that?
Another chance.
When Lana approached me, she spoke about having a story to tell, which centered around Neo and Trinity. And that sounded really exciting to me.
We have so much care and love for the characters. I think quite a few times we'd both just start crying just because it's so deeply moving for us, Neo and Trinity.
When I play the character and I work with Carrie Ann, it's something beyond yourself. It's big. You know, whatever that is, it feels like they're in that together.
It's almost overwhelming at times, I find, because we have such history and such a deep friendship and care for each other.
We got to train together, talk about life on the mat, and I've cherished that time that I've got to share with her, and just to see her so different and so much the same.
Hello, Neo.
How do you know that name?
I know a lot about you.
Who are you?
My name is Trinity.
From the beginning, Lana and Lily were interested in excellence.
The pressure was so intense.
You're so intense and delicious.
Yeah, and I wanted to please them so badly, but not in a unhealthy way. It always felt inspired, pleasing, and wanting to meet their artistry, wanting to meet their vision.
Yes.
And they supported us in every way to make that happen. So I never felt like I was on my own to do that, but I wanted to do every single thing they wanted me to do. Like in the movies, if there's anything I didn't do, which are a few things, it really bugs me.
Right.
It really bugs me. You know,
Right,
smashing
yeah.
into the wall, you know, that big
Yeah.
smash.
Yeah.
I see that and I kind of want to go, that's not me. I didn't do that. I felt so much freedom in the way that she works now.
For me, I think the biggest surprise was like no rehearsal, right? What was her expression? Learn by doing.
Yeah. I have a disdain for action, cut, resetting, action, cut. Like I
Yeah.
like long takes.
I mean, I would say she did less takes than previously, especially in the action.
But that was phenomenal.
Right, the rigs, driving, being on the back,
Stuntmen,
wire pulls,
the
people,
helicopters,
2 helicopters coming down the
guns,
streets,
bullets.
fire, mayhem.
I knew I was back in the Matrix.
Oh, yeah. There she is. You ever talk to her?
When I first spoke with Lana, she, was, so I'm thinking of doing another Matrix, And then she later went on to kind of share, kind of the personal history of her parents passing and wanting to write a love story. Did she share that with you as well before?
She did.
Yeah.
Definitely touched me. And to bring that kind of grief into the art, and I'm still kind of processing that, what that means.
Yeah. Is it romance?
It's a love.
But is it a rejoining, a rekindling, a
remembering?
Matrix 4.
Remembering.
Neo, I'm not afraid anymore. The Oracle told me that I would fall in love and that the man that I loved would be the one.
On the original Matrix, there's this prophecy of love, right? But I always felt like that for Trinity, that was part of it, but it was never all of it.
I always just felt like she was such a warrior. for what she believed in. One of the things that I came across recently, because I just moved and I was unpacking like old journals, was I had written the scene between myself and the Oracle.
Oh, wow. Right, right.
Yeah. And what she had told me. And imagine myself being quite young and being told that this man, I would know that he would be the one because I would love him. And like bringing that to life, that actual conversation to life, impacted everything that I did.
I remember the last day of filming. We shot on film back then. We shot on film.
I remember A Hair in the Gate.
Right?
Yeah.
A Hair in the Gate.
Yeah, I remember crying the whole day of my last day because the scene was just basically saying goodbye to you, to Neo. And it was painful and beautiful and like, but I don't think I've ever cried so much in a scene, like just every take. Lana was crying, Lily was crying, the crew was crying, saying goodbye to the most important work of art that I had ever been a part of. It was a hard goodbye. Yeah.
Right.
Have we met? It's such a beautiful love story. It has this depth to it that's not frivolous or trying to be something. It feels so grounded in a way.
Yeah, it's beyond, it's not romantic love.
Yeah.
Right? Which oftentimes that kind of connecting is portrayed as.
Well, it's noble, right?
Yeah.
That you're trying to reclaim and help her.
Right, I guess I'm kind of flipped to the Trinity position.
Yeah. You want to help her to awaken from the Matrix.
It's too late.
I understand.
I love that line where it's like, you know, what if she doesn't want to wake up?
Right. He's just like, that's your choice. And I'll go back.
And you'll go back.
I'll go back.
We can't go back. We won't.
I find it very effortless to work with you.
That's cool.
I feel like there's a sort of deep connection that we have.
Yeah.
I don't try to analyze it or think about it too much, but I feel it when we're working together, and it's such a gift.
Yeah, it's fun.
Really love it.
What I think is amazing about the Wachowskis is that they have this innate ability to create an entire universe from their mind.
Okay, here we go.
So cool to see the characters that have come in from the past and the new characters that have been introduced and how they've come together to make this new universe.
Why should I trust you? The first day of training, everyone getting together, getting to know each other, and how you feeling today, and who are you, and oh yeah, I saw you in that. That's pretty cool.
Seeing him there in his costume and hearing the voice and hearing him say the dialogue, it was such a surreal moment.
It's really intimidating because you're standing there next to, like, you know, Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, who have done some of the greatest fight sequences in film history.
Keanu was like, oh, that move that you did with your guns was so cool. Oh my God, pinch me.
Let's get bloody and start shooting.
Early last year, I heard something floating around about this Project Ice Cream, and I was like, what is that? And I got a phone call saying, Lana Wachowski wants you to fly to Berlin to test. How can you say no? How can you say no?
And action.
A long time ago, you changed my life. Bugs is a fan of Neo. She's one of us. It's so meta. She's having the pinch me fan moment that I feel like the audience will be having.
If you want the truth, Neo, you're going to have to follow me.
When we began, we were really into making Bugs very spry and fast, close to the ground, faster than everyone else, really snappy. She is the commander of the Nemesis with a ragtag crew.
We're kind of like this little group of misfits they're kind of freaks.
We have Berg and Lexi. They always finish each other's sentences. And we have Seek, who is techie and who is guiding me through almost every scene when I'm in the Matrix to tell me, go left, there's a door on your right, just keeping me alive and safe from the agents. We find Morpheus trapped in the body of Agent Smith.
Agent Smith?
One of the things about this film is that there's many more characters who are on a journey of self-discovery along with Neo. Morpheus is also on a journey to figure out who he is. Be able to play a character who can inhabit different bodies and different forms and different worlds. Welcome to the crib. It's very exciting, oftentimes confusing, but I know that I'm in good hands.
We have a complex character called an exomorph, which is the form that Morpheus takes in the real world now. We construct a face that we're going to capture from Yahya himself.
Doesn't it seem crazy to come all this way and leave her here? Lawrence Fishburne, he was so iconic to step in, and it's been a very surreal experience for me. You call this a choice?
Getting to offer the pills was sick.
That was one of those moments when I'm looking and I'm saying, oh, these are the pills. If you want out, you'll take this pill. It was one of the cooler days on set. Time to fly.
There would be some times where Yaya's sitting down in the seat and Lawrence is on the screen and he mimics Lawrence perfectly. And just watching it, you're like, yeah, that's right.
It was such a magical moment. I think until we were all sitting there and looked up, we did not understand the magnitude and the magnificence of being on this project.
I've done a lot of things in my life. One thing I haven't done is the big action movie with the big wires and the guns and the stunts. Sadly, the analyst just gets punched a few times.
We don't want anyone to get hurt, do we, Thomas?
It's been interesting in trying to craft how to play this guy as an actor, because I really don't want my presence in the first part of the movie. I don't want you to think, oh, wait a second, I think that analyst is more than meets the eye. What's going to happen to him?
Turns out in my Matrix, the worse we treat you, the more energy you produce. It's nuts.
That 5-page monologue was, I think, the hardest I've ever worked in any film experience in my life. You could recite 5 pages of dialogue where you explain the history of everything in a very methodical way. Or I could say, kindly, like, this is the world that we live in now. Or I could go off the rails and be Machiavellian and more crazier and louder. And those are all 3 valid choices. But it's been an interesting mental experience in a way that I think only the Matrix could provide.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. I always loved that line.
It feels incredible to be Agent Smith. And I've thought about the kind of parallels of the new relationship of Smith and the old Smith and the new Smith. It's new code, so it's a different, but sometimes I would think about a word, or he always did a lot of gestures like of this with his hand, or it's his, like, you know, the thing that he did. I was surprised to get asked to play Agent Smith because I've never done an action movie in my life.
Hey.
Does that feel right to you?
Jonathan has never done any action sequences, but we shared such dedication and enthusiasm for that aspect of the storytelling.
The first fight with Keanu and the first time I fought with him, I felt nervous for that. But it's sort of like you're looking at people in a pool, what are they doing? And then you get in the pool and then you're just in it.
I got stuck, you guys.
I know you.
We met a long time ago.
Satay is one of my favourite characters from the trilogy. She's one of those characters that Lily and Lana had ramped up that is bigger than the number of screen minutes they have. And all of us wanted to see her again.
I felt the responsibility of the fact that Sati's character was carried through the trilogy to now. And I love discovering that Sati has a certain calm about her, because she's in control. She has been waiting for this day for a really long time. I think that there's a quiet strength in it, and it's very reflective of Lana as a person, actually. You know, she has a quiet strength about her.
Lana has really written these very rich roles. There's so much about like memory in the making and in the living of these characters for me.
The experience of this entire movie for me, with the fighting and the rain and the guns, that was very fun to play.
Very sensitive piece of equipment. It's like the opportunity of a lifetime to be a part of a franchise that was such a big part of your adolescence.
It's a deep honor to be a part of it. To get to sit and observe would be a dream for anyone. To get to participate in it, it's been a crazy gift. I took the red pill, man. I'm glad I made that choice.
Never in a million years would I have ever thought we would be doing this again. Sometimes I just pinch myself to get to be here again, to have another chance with all the growth that all of us have had and all the ways that we've changed. It's really pretty incredible.
It's always fun to come back to the people you like working with, you know, but we've all stayed in touch throughout the years.
Now, 23 years later, to come back and do this, the fourth one, yeah, it's pretty exciting.
All the people that you're making a movie with, we are this big extended family.
The Matrix sort of brought us all together in a way. And we really bonded with the people we met, and we really enjoyed the energy there. Lily and I were sort of young filmmakers, full of all sorts of brash bravado. And, you know, we'd only made one movie, but we were trying to make this extremely complicated film, and the people who we met all had a similar energy. I think that energy set the tone for Lily and I's careers.
The Matrix for me was the largest film I'd ever worked on, and the most complicated, and certainly in the most exciting film that we'd done in Australia. Back in those days, I was the supervising art director, and just coming back all these years later as the production designer on the fourth one is a little bit of a buzz, I have to say.
I think everyone who comes out of the Australian film industry, because you get such a little amount of money to make movies with, it becomes this total mother of invention. I think it was this philosophy of like, we can do it, we'll prove to the world that we can do this large science fiction movie, because no one's ever given us the opportunity to do it before. All of us, after we finished the trilogy, never thought we'd be back doing another Matrix movie.
Camera set, ready, and action!
I'm super grateful James wanted to come along on this project. He was one of the first people I called and wanted to see if he wanted to do it, and I'm very grateful he said yes.
I'm grateful to be here and, you know, complete the journey.
Lana is extraordinary, brilliant filmmaker, and to be able to practice your art and to share it and collaborate and be asked to create with a brilliant filmmaker. Oh my gosh.
The experience of making the movies was such a transformative time in my life. It was so challenging physically, and it tested me every day with, you know, different things that maybe I was afraid to do. And I love being tested like that.
I look for people who just feel they can try and do anything differently and don't have to be doing it the usual way, and looking for something that's challenging and outside their comfort zone, like doing kung fu fights and learning them like a dance and then having them really do it. That was, now everybody does it, but back then nobody was doing it.
1996 when I first got the call to go to Burbank, California to audition to double Keanu Reeves on a sci-fi action movie. That's all I was told. I got there and I recognized Yuen Woo-ping and some of the members of his team from some of the Jet Li films and Donnie Yen films that I had previously seen.
For him, there's a couple stunt guys come with audition. They are bad, and there comes chat, and then Wu Ping was the asker, okay, show me what you have. And Chad was like kicking, flipping. Wow, it's a good one, you know? The bond beginning, the friendship beginning, the pain. So I push him very hard. But the kicking, stretching, splits. So I think if somebody bring you the most pain, you will remember this guy forever.
The Matrix has done so much for me in my development in my life. It has meant so much to me. My mind has been so captured with it. We would have amazing philosophical conversations, and we still did a long time afterwards, and when we were working on Reloaded and Revolutions was the same.
When you're part of the Matrix family and you build that kind of team, and then 20 years later, here we are. It's a good homecoming. Just watching the Wachowskis do their thing. I can't get that out of my DNA. We got to work with, literally the Wachowski School of Filmmaking. You know, obviously they had a gigantic influence cinematically on myself and some of the other guys that have now branched off into directing. And I think really anybody in any of the departments that worked on the original Matrix that are still here today has had a pretty influential career, I think, in the business.
This film, like one of those sets that there's this sort of immediate kind of familiarity. You know, back then, obviously we were different people, both of us.
I've met many people who have been influenced and impacted by the films. And, you know, you'll hear, the sentence is, "The Matrix changed my life." And, to be a part of something that can do that in a positive way is rare and beautiful. So I just say thank you, changed mine too. Day 1, Matrix Monday training. There is no spoon.
And action!
The motorcycle, all the action, and the fighting. It's really incredible.
Everything now is like more mayhem, more chaos.
The explosions and the stunt crashes and hundreds of people running down streets, it's epic.
The Matrix has been now taken to another level.
When it comes to the action, this film is moving beyond limitations.
I have witnessed the craziest stuff on the daily.
And the chaos is beautiful. Everything's in camera. All those people flying those are real people. And to do that in that kind of space, in that amount of time was actually very impressive.
There was definitely a moment on the rooftop where Yahya and I looked at each other and we couldn't say anything because there were 2 helicopters circling us in the middle of the night. They were so close to all these skyscrapers and you could just see Lana's bright neon dreadlocks peering out of the side of the helicopter, and we looked at each other and we just shook our heads because it was like, okay, it's the Matrix. It was one of those pinch me moments.
Working on this film was so damn cool, and definitely one of the highlights of my experience here was working with Keanu. And man, Keanu is a pro, and he loves filmmaking. And you know that his body hurts and that he's aching because he put the work in, and he's 56 years old, and so if he's sore, he's earned it, you know what I mean? But he's pushing through that physically and mentally because he's so excited about what he does. It's a pleasure to work with Keanu effing Reeves.
Part of the fun of the films is a good movie kung fu fight. So I wanted to be as good as I could be.
It's interesting with all the action, I really look to Keanu as a teacher. I mean, he's so gifted in this genre and he has such an ability with his body to tell story. And I joke that we should make a master class of him teaching people because he's so good. And so I really look to him all the time. His mastery is just really unbelievable. With the fighting, I'm not naturally gifted in martial arts, so I'm learning these routines like a dance.
If you're into the martial arts stunt world or the choreography world, obviously Matrix has an influence on you. So to have a crack at just being on it and seeing all the magic, and most of our guys have worked with Keanu before, and he's always a gem to work with.
After 1, 2, 3 Matrix, Keanu is keeping doing the action movie for all those years.
He's already in good shape. He trains on his free time. He's doing bike stuff, gun stuff, martial arts stuff. He's doing wire work. Like, it's just crazy. His work ethic is pretty much second to none. So when you see him, it's amazing. He had such good training from those Matrix movies, like, he can pretty much adapt to anything we throw at him now.
Nice one.
Thanks. When I first walked in, I clocked Keanu, you know, in his, like, jiu-jitsu outfit. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? That's the first fight I've ever done before in my life, and it's with Keanu, and it's in The Matrix. Was like unbelievable because Keanu is so expressive as a fighter, as a scene partner. At the end of the second day, Lana yelled, "Cut," and he did the next move, and then I did the next move, and then he did the next move. And they were like, whoa, like we kept going after cut because we were so into doing it. And that, to me, is a moment I'll never forget.
With the performances, the writing, the ambition, the scale, the scope, and then the love, that experience, I hope people enjoy, and that the film will be as inspirational.
A modal is a program within a program. It's a short mock-up of a scene in a game.
Thomas has this, he's made this game. He's created this other insular world where he's basically gaming his characters.
He doesn't quite know why he writes it, but he writes it.
He calls it an experiment, but what it is a way, a kind of backdoor way for if there is someone out there, maybe they could find it, maybe they could find me.
The great thing about writing for something like The Matrix is we have to come up with names for things. And which for writers, it's a dream come true. There was a philosopher, I think he taught at Princeton, who introduced the notion of modal realities. Universes might be discrete, that is, if you live in one universe, you're not necessarily aware of the existence of other universes.
This is not the real world.
And so the modal became that. So there's a modal reality that Thomas Anderson is created for himself, a little memory capsule to keep you reminding us of the stories.
So through that, the film opens, and this is where it's kind of cool. It's just that Lana is basically referencing the opening of The Matrix, but it's got different characters, and you have a character who's now watching this opening as the police and the SWAT are coming into the same kind of apartment building and gonna go get this character, and your men are already dead, and there's a new Smith, and there's gonna be a new Morpheus, and something's different.
We know the story.
There's another layer above you and things that don't quite make sense. It's a playthrough of the introduction to the very first Matrix film with subtle variations that make you think that this world hasn't been passive over the last 20 years.
There were actual shots that I said, I kind of have an idea of what that shot was. I'm not gonna go watch the trilogy, I just kind of know what the shot is. And I'm gonna kind of do that shot again in a way that tells you that I'm doing that shot again, but I literally can't make it the way I made it before.
It's a Matrix film, but she's not trying to remake the Matrix.
We're in the modal streets, and right behind me you can probably see the Heart of the City Hotel. which is a duplication from the first Matrix film, and we've kind of echoed that sentiment here, which also appears in our script at the beginning. The Anderson Diner sign, this is an integral part of the street scene. This is when we first see Bugs appear. She has discovered Echo in the heart of the city hotel room.
This is how it all began.
There's references to Morpheus and to Echo and to Thomas Anderson, all dotted around here and there. The other thing that we did was Thomas Anderson's apartment here.
So we wanted to recreate as close as we could to the original set and the original feel.
Holy shit. This is his apartment.
We had to take how Thomas Anderson has matured and what eclectic sort of, things he's got over the years and put some of his personality in there.
When we did the first, this was obviously all things that were around at the time. The Mac monitors and the keyboards are all things that were easy to get in those days. Not so easy now.
The fact that Thomas Anderson created all of this, and this is in his mind, there may be some subliminal kind of thought that he may have put some of this signage here in his game that he's created.
Before we know what we're up to, we see Echo who's in latex, and you go, oh, okay, I'm watching The Matrix. During that first bit of unfolding, it's quite Matrixy. It's a lot of latex, a lot of leather, a lot of that sort of thing going on. I did want to get it so we were in that Matrix world for that moment, the quite 90s thing.
You have to do this homage to the originals, but at the same time, kind of make something new. The girl that played Echo trains with us. We got to fight her husband in the scene. The husband clothesline her, and then she gives him a boot right back. That's always fun.
All right.
Will you do again?
We're trying to make a film very much in the vein of the Matrix.
I'm purposely doing it again to say something about the way that we do things again and again and again in our lives, and to mark the difference of how the againness is never again.
When we pick up on Resurrections, we find Thomas Anderson again working at a gaming company where he has developed a game called The Matrix.
It was a slow progression of finding the location and then finding what we could do to the location. The devil's in the detail, and you can have fun with that, and you can enhance the detail, and it's layer upon layer upon layer of everyday living. And I think that's what goes to make up the design. You may have a beautiful set, but as you go all the way down the tree, there's tiny little things that you can add to give you that sort of convincing tone that it's real. We've got a great set decorator, Barbara. Barbara found some very interesting bits and pieces that had sort of kind of a connection to Thomas Anderson or a connection to the Matrix in very subtle ways. Whether they're tiny figurines or some industrial piece of metal that might have come from the Nebuchadnezzar and things like that.
Sorry, it's the boss.
How does Thomas Anderson's office, what sort of ratio of his size of his office goes with the size of the boss's office? You can almost see that when Thomas walks into the boss's office. You kind of know he's just come from a smaller office in the corner somewhere. That's all part of trying to show his character.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious.
There's this whole fully imagined world that sort of establishes the entire vocabulary, not just for its own narrative project, but well outside of it. You do not want to damage it or destroy it and undo it in any way, but also you don't want to be constricted by it. And so the question then began, where would Agent Smith, this force of evil, more than evil, different from evil, force of malignancy, where would you place that? Then he's in Deus Machina, and as the boss.
Things have changed, the market's tough. I'm sure you can understand why our beloved parent company, Warner Brothers, has decided to make a sequel to the trilogy.
Really?
I love the tiny lines about Warner Brothers and the studio, the bosses. You can hear Lana's voice in that.
The office scene, there's so much irony. I don't remember the other Matrix movies being so ironic. You say Matrix to anybody, this is what they think. Lana brought a lot of humor to this, a lot of her own sense of humor, and a lot of real feelings towards making this movie again.
I thought it would be fun to weave some of myself and my own experience into poor Thomas Anderson's experience.
When Smith first gets reactivated,
oh my God,
he reverts to type. There's Neo, here's the gun, kill Neo.
Having to learn fights is very physical, and having to fight with other people is a different language than speaking. And so then finding the character within my body has been really great. When I got to do the scene where I come out as the new Smith, I felt like I knew him. It just flew out of me.
Mr. Anderson!
No, it can't be.
Office fight was dope, man. I get to come out, got the two guns blazing, the glasses, the form-fitted gold suit.
Neo, follow me!
One thing I love about Lana is Lana's all about the action. She's about the acting, about the storytelling, but when it comes to the action with the fights and with the guns, she's right in there with us, making sure that we look cool and badass right there in every frame. It's real cool to get in there and get behind the weapon and be powerful and have those really heroic moments that the Matrix is known for.
To be so physically alive in a way that I never have been before, shooting guns, it's the stuff dreams are made of. It's so fun.
The Matrix is such a firmly built, strong, and expansive mythology.
Don't think I've seen anybody work immersion better as directors or as world builders. They hook you. They hook you right from the start.
I wanted to show what happens to the future of that mythology, because I'm always rejecting the old mythologies, and Io is an evolution of Zion, which is a reduction of Zion.
Welcome to Io.
So Zion is no more. We now have Io, which is much more developed.
Its crucial and founding difference from Zion is that Synthians helped to build it. After the events of the trilogy, there rose up a faction of differently thinking machines, and there was machine-on-machine violence. The losers, the refugees, were given a home by Niobe. They not only found shelter there, but found purpose.
In this new city of the future, machines and humans grow together. Binary thinking has now begun to be transcended.
Plus, it is pretty to look at.
We had great fun conceptualizing it and thinking about the terms of the world, only a fraction of which is visible in the film, but you need a really well thought out iceberg. The world builders have worked everything out and you just see the visible 10%. It's a different visible 10% than one where actually the world builders haven't thought about the other 90%.
Zion was basically a fortress city. People, once they left Zion, were looking to have a peaceful relationship with the machines. So this is a totally different environment. They're not on a war footing.
You know, they're not at war. They have time to think for themselves and to give themselves some luxury, but it isn't a place of luxury because everything they do, they have to manufacture. You have to have clothes you can work in, they have to be practical, but you're not on the defense all the time, so you can be a little bit relaxed and you can have color.
You know, it's this beautiful marriage between the future and scarcity.
This is the Io farm. It's a big valley in an old riverbed, and so they've set up this area here, this farm, to try and manufacture vegetables and fruits and products they can eat so they don't have to eat that gunk that they were eating in Zion.
Breakfast of champions.
Niobe? Few more wrinkles and a few less teeth, but wise enough to know I don't know anything.
I love that Lana made Niobe older. She is an older woman that is leading this city. You know, she's the OG, and she's honored in that way. It reminded me of cultures in Africa to this day, where the elders are utterly honored.
Disarm! Kujaku's a friend.
Kujaku is a synthient who saved the life of Sati.
We all agree that we needed a character who would kind of contain a knowledge of the Matrix, kind of an insider. And so Sati became an option.
In this world, our consciousness create the reality. So Sati is as close to being human as she can while also existing as a program.
I think she shows that in this world, it's an alliance with the humans. One is not subservient to the other. It really is an alliance of equals.
I've been praying for this day for a very long time.
This is the new ship of the fleet. This is the Nemesine. It was resurrected after the war they had, and with the help of the Scythians, they helped them rebuild it. So that was interesting, designing the new version of the ship. So the chairs have a different look to them, a different feel. They're from the Nebuchadnezzar. These have been refurbished, of course. They're more streamlined, a bit more elegant, because the machines have helped. This is the new improved version.
It's sick. Yes, a lot has changed.
It was so inspiring to see how much Lana holds in her mind.
She knows exactly what she wants, and she knows how to get it, and she knows how to get it fast.
It's not a story, it's not characters, but it's a universe. It's an immersive experience. You feel it, you understand it, you think it.
I knew that this was a physical film. Just going through the script, I knew that Morpheus had some really cool action moments that I was very, very excited about. So I started to get myself into really good physical shape. I started to work on my flexibility and things like that, you know, just to make sure that I could do the karate movements and the, you know, the various kicks and stuff. And it was fortunate that I was thinking that way, because we went straight to work. All of a sudden, I'm in our dojo, and it's myself and the big dog going at it.
It was really exciting to think about what would be the character of the martial arts for Thomas Anderson, Neo, 20 years later.
Gotta be kidding. No joke. Man, Keanu, he's so excited about what he does. You know, we go out to dinner and I look up the table and he's practicing his choreography.
And it's been really amazing. I've had a chance, you know, on this film to work with Tiger Chen, who I worked with on the first Matrix, the second Matrix, and the third Matrix.
I think he's so used to the jiu-jitsu, gun shooting. His body shape is different. Now you have to make stuff like kung fu more better looking, because the Matrix is all about, you know, fantastic looking. And then your moving has to be more bigger. It's not all about fighting. Matrix is all about fantasy, different world, sci-fi. It's different.
So now we're throwing like so many different styles.
The style of Lana is changing. It's all changing for me. It's very different. The first Matrix, the second, third, it's more planning. This one, it's more organic.
You don't know me.
As a stunt person, we're always taught, okay, rehearse, 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 prepare, prepare, prepare. So I think what this taught me is like to kind of be open and like think really fast on the fly. I kind of welcome the challenge sometimes, because I think it kind of opens you up. And sometimes great things come out of spontaneity. And I think that's the most honest things that come out. So we have a lot of stuff going on in 3 days, so we just have to be as efficient as possible. Neo's gonna blast new Morpheus through this dojo. So we got guys like hitting corners, falling off, jumping off, flipping off. We have wire gags kind of in the dojo. Some old school Hong Kong style wire work. Really reminiscent of the first one. Everything comes full circle. You're coming back to what started everything off.
It was a lot of fun. Part of the fun of the film is a good movie kung fu fight and some mind-blowing action.
You? Oh, it is you!
Oh, God.
What happens to a program when they become self-aware and care about being alive? In the trilogy, The Matrix, the program was so big that there are certain programs have a certain amount of autonomy, right? So like the Merovingian. But that kind of autonomy in the leaner, more efficient Matrix, that was controlled by the analyst. A program like the Merovingian became superfluous. It was much harder to hide because it's a smaller matrix where purges take place. They can still be hiding in the cracks, and they don't want Neo to upset that structure.
What the Merv is trying to say is that their situation is a little bit like mine. To have their lives back, yours has to end.
The factory fight scene is an extension of the civil wars in the machine world. Some programs have fallen out of favor, some have gone lone wolf, and Smith has been able to round up a cadre of them to form his own loose Praetorian Guard. This ragtag Praetorian Guard are pretty dangerous, and it turns into a bit of a boss fight between Neo and Smith, while the other members of the crew are fighting the cadre. It's funny and weird and dangerous. It's as if the lower programs who have been skulking in the the equivalent of the dark web have been rounded up from different video games. And what's pretty cool is in the Merovingian's Franglais diatribe, he recounts his grievances with Neo and we had conversation, we had culture, and now we just have these beepy, 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 beepy.
The one thing that he has kept for all these years is the desire to destroy Neo, that is for sure. I think his world was damaged. I think he went into hiding. He's one of those viruses in a way. He's been there, and he's sort of deep within the system. And he's not filled with the best intentions. So that meanness makes him survive.
I was thinking about when in the first movies, his castle, everybody was very much, you know, it was the party place, but they were all very much in latex and that sort of thing, and it was very cohesive look there. And I was thinking, well, I can't do that because, you know, it has moved on. So what would that be now? So I wanted to do sort of trash punk. I wanted to do a little bit rave punk, that sort of thing. So if he was having that party now, it would probably be that bit of sort of techno trash. That was the sort of genesis of where all of those exiles were. So it's all very graffiti and that sort of thing. And also it was trash, because that's where they live, is in the underground.
This costume, which is made out of bits of, I think it's a great image of you know, our human society in a way, that what we have produced and what we're left with. This is what has happened to this group of people that had been stuck in the corridors and the tubes of the Matrix.
There's a lot of wire work, multi-levels. What was good about that one was a lot of the people fighting are all stunt performers. It's like everyone's fighting. Pretty much the whole cast was fighting at that point. You have Yaya's fighting, Jessica's fighting, Keanu's fighting, Jonathan's fighting. Because if you watch it, it's like, it's not visual effect. I mean, everything's in camera. All those people flying those are real people. And to do that in that kind of space, in that amount of time was actually very impressive. I think we got very lucky because this cast was very physical and everyone trained really hard. You gotta remember, like, Lana's so brilliant and smart, it's like she's gonna put a new twist on this thing. So whatever we think is what we remember the Matrix, it's completely different in this one. Instead of having like balletic, beautiful kind of like wide fights, everything now is like more mayhem, more chaos. And I think it's just like, as an evolution as a filmmaker to change, even though we're expecting what I grew up with. Just like anything else, it has to change, and it wants to change. You want to change the genre somehow.
Lana has really written these very rich roles. All of these characters have this inner self, and they're almost like this kind of light and dark.
Just like old times.
Neo and Smith are each other's like yin and yang. They're basically each other's arch nemesis. So people are expecting this certain gravitas to the way they're fighting.
The bathroom fight between Keanu and Jonathan Smith, it was fantastic. It's clean and brutal at the same time.
What we're trying to do is recreate some of the feeling from the first movie, but kind of update it. So we will still have kung fu like we see, but I think in a less stylized, more gritty fashion.
Ready for some more kung fu?
At the beginning, Lana says to me, "You're Agent Smith," and I go, "Sure." The logical part of my brain goes, I'm gonna pretend to beat up Keanu Reeves? Like, who the f am I? So it was sort of that aspect of it seemed crazy to me. And I started to go to training, and I started to understand this world of the Matrix. I started to find my way into it. You do drills of really specific moves over and 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 over again. Muscle memory.
Jonathan trains all day long. That guy's work ethic is crazy. It's amazing. And the stuff he retains, and he still has that performance part of it. For someone that didn't grow up doing martial arts or doing kind of action movies, to see him do these things it's very impressive.
The fight team and Lana had a strategy for Smith where it's brutalistic and it's strong heavy punches as opposed to Keanu's style, which is more smooth and fluid. Keanu's like ba 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 ba, and then Smith is like ba, and then it's like da 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 ba. And when she would describe Keanu, it was faster moves, and then Smith comes in with like a hard punch. So that's sort of this kind of fighting style that we were going with, being less technical, but more brutalistic.
You more than anyone understands why I can't go back.
God, this smashing the sink was scary. I'm throwing a sink at Keanu's head. And like, Rah! I would never want to throw a sink at Keanu's head. Have a relationship with him that was physical, that is different than when you're doing lines. I didn't realize this. It's so different. And I feel closer to him now after having fought with him than I had before I fought with him.
And we had a good little fight. And yeah, it was fun.
I'll never forget it.
I've been thinking about us, Tom. About binaries that form the nature of things. Ones and zeros, light and dark, choice in its absence. Anderson and Smith.
There's not many films that come along that change the way you view cinema. There's before The Matrix and there's after The Matrix.
It was such a zeitgeist litmus shift from other films.
I must have been maybe 13, 14. And I remember being blown away. I had never seen anything like it. I think what I remember the most about the original films are those really pivotal shots.
The first time I saw Bullet Time, I was mind blown. If you think about the history of cinema, there are a few shots that as soon as you see it, you know exactly what movie that's from. Neo going into Bullet Time, that's an iconic shot.
Bullet time was this desire to decouple time and space in cinema because they're so linked. And I was trying to look for a freedom that didn't exist. That character is trying to get free of the system of control that is also true for cameras and movement in space. And I was like, I just want to move a camera in a way that's faster than a camera can travel. And then writing this new story, I was looking for something that allows you to make the audience feel that feeling that they felt the time that they first saw The Matrix. That became exciting. I really like the idea that the analyst would use bullet time against Neo.
The analyst is throwing them into a version of sort of like bullet time, but it's sort of ultra bullet time.
So like as the analyst zipped around him, he would be like stuck at this super slow motion rate, but then the analyst would go zoop, 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 zoop.
Surprise. And as we began to write it, we thought, wow, this relationship to our everyday experience of reality, days that seem to fly by, moments that seem to drag forever, if we could maybe try to capture some of that feeling. And so I said, I don't think I've ever seen a sequence in which many things are at a different frame rate. And it sounded like such a great idea, and it sounded like, it seems kind of simple.
From the get-go on this, there was the sense of the pressure or the expectation that's going to come from a film like this, and the technological aspect, and what are they going to do this time? How are they going to beat bullet time? I mean, I love a challenge, luckily.
Somebody came up with a cool idea to use a 3D stereo cam, but shoot a range from 8 frames a second all the way up to 120 frames.
2 cameras were rolling simultaneously at different frame rates, so that the same exact scene we didn't have to do twice. We could film it regular style and super duper 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 slow, so that you're getting these actual effects to actually be happening.
You can actually split screen different elements in the frame so that there are different frame rates.
You can dial between those looks of sort of very fluid, sort of almost liquid-like motion blur and sort of sharp, crispy detail.
Keanu, the backgrounds, Carrie, they're running at 120 frames, but the analyst is moving around them and talking. He's in real time.
Oh no, can you stop the bullet? If only you could move faster.
The analyst is mocking Neo with Mr. Bullet Time's slowness. It's beautiful.
Just give the people what they want, right?
The apple, beautiful visual moment, maybe my favorite in the film. Here comes the bullet, it just goes pop.
I think one of the fun things about The Matrix is it sort of operates on this different level that lots of movies don't operate on.
I wanted to bring something that felt exciting again, something new.
Crazy car chase through downtown San Francisco. It was just amazing.
The swarm scenes, hundreds of people running down streets.
I mean, 2 helicopters flying in between office buildings with cars flipping, exploding.
It's mind-boggling.
Yes.
Here we go. Ready, and action!
I think one of the things about Lana that's really interesting is how her style and her way of working has evolved over the years. It's rare to see an artist who just absolutely goes in the complete polar opposite of what they became known for.
She's not even sure what her shot list is. She'll come in and the producers and the first AD, everyone's kind of wondering what the next shot is. Do we get on the helicopter and fly it again, or do we reset 85 people back to one? And she just kind of thinks about it and thinks about it. And I initially thought to myself, how can you not be this prepared when you're doing these giant sequences? And then I realized, wait a second, she's made 3 movies like this before. She knows in her mind what she needs and how to get it effectively, efficiently. She's editing it while she's making it, and she's lived this life over and over and over in not a weird Matrixy way. And to do it a 4th time again has been very inspiring to watch that process, that confidence.
We had maybe almost 50 stunt people we trained, and you had a fight team, you had cars, you had motorcycles, you had a group of riggers getting slammed into trucks and getting blown back, and it was like stunt university. Lana and Warner Brothers gave us all the tools we needed, and we had helicopters and drones and picture cars and biscuit rigs. We have Russian arms and camera bikes. There was a lot.
This is a well one. This was a fun one. What's so good about this one is it's so packed with people. Like even in my head, logistically, I'm like, how are we gonna pull this off without people getting smushed?
I think we had 70 when we were shooting, 70 stunt people. I brought up, it was a who's who. You call these legendary stunt people and you go, hey, you want to be on Matrix for a week? Like, nobody's going to say no.
Neo, get on!
This is one thing that I hope people retain when they're watching the making of, is how much Lana valued the real stuff, the real light, the real people. I think there's an assumption that most of this would be done with CG, that most of these effects would be layers.
This is real. We're not putting a CG helicopter in there. It just adds to the authenticity of the movie.
All that swarm stuff was amazing. One of my cousins was in it. Like, I brought them to set, and I was like, hey, Lana, my cousin's. And she's like, huh? You wanna be in the swarm? Made his life.
We're actually driving in the actual cars and weaving in and out of, I think there were like 300 or 350 extras. It was me and Aaron Dira in this Bronco. And you're just watching all of these like crazy stunt guys just throwing themselves at the car and rolling off. And, we're like, shooting pistols out. Like, we're getting paid to do this? Are you kidding?
Get us out of here!
I'm trying.
Unreal, surreal. I get to drive this fat car like this G-Wagon and shoot people at the same time. And they would let me do that. Because usually they wouldn't, like let an actor sit behind the wheel, but it was like living in a movie, I don't know. It's hard to describe.
When I think back at the trilogy, that motorcycle stuff, it's like probably one of the hardest things I did. On this movie, I was super excited because I felt more confident this time. I had a couple of key things I wanted to hit, right? I had the motorcycle, the building, and then the fighting. And the motorcycle I thought for sure I'd do, and then they brought the bike, Keanu's bike. It's from his line.
So another meta twist from Lana. I'm part of a motorcycle company called Arch Motorcycle, and she liked one of these bikes that we built called the KRGT1.
I mean, wow. When I did get on the bike and was just like, yeah, I mean, I saw my life flash before my eyes. I was like, whoa, I can't do it. It's too powerful of a bike. Like, I'm not experienced enough to do that. I said, could you make it just a little more puh?
The falling bodies are the destructive intent of the analyst and the analyst's order as forcibly conscripted suicide bombers. And this has very, very dark echoes from our world. It has political and ideological chords. That's powerful, powerful stuff. That's potent, potent imagery. It's not kid stuff.
The way this film has been shot is so rich, so, much more convincingly real than things that we were shooting previously, that the CG cannot kind of pop out. It has to feel completely integrated. It has to feel like in support of a movie that has been shot. A big part of with Lana is trying to find ways to take the advantages of technology and be flexible rather than have technology limit what we're doing and slow the process for her.
So how do we get the best technology for the film? Because that's what The Matrix deserves. Jared Land and his company, Red, offered the best technology that this movie could have as far as our cameras go. The Red Ranger is the main camera that we shoot on, and then the Komodo, which wasn't even in full production yet.
The Komodo is a brand new camera in a little box this size.
When you have explosions, you want the cameras to get super close. We were the first production to ever shoot with them. On top of that, as a gift for her being such a wonderful filmmaker, Jared wanted to present Lana with a customized Red Komodo camera.
That is awesome.
Everyone has their own way of making films. As a crew, we have to figure out how to make Lana's vision come true. You just got to trust that she already had the whole idea of what it was going to look like in her head.
2, 1, go!
I wanted to do this sequence where the Neo and Trinity are on the top of a building and they take hold of each other's hands and they run full speed and they jump off a skyscraper together. And I wanted it in the perfect sunlight, in the perfect moment, and I wanted it to feel completely real. I wanted to see Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves as these two characters really jump off a building.
Can they make that jump? I said, Lana, if you're looking for a wire person, I know the person. Scott Rogers.
Before I even read the script, Lana Wachowski, our director, talked to me about this jump. We are in San Francisco on a 43-story building that is 550 feet up.
In movie world, it always comes up to, well, why wouldn't you just do it, on a green screen stage, or why do you need to do it for real? And to create these moments, live action, the real environment, pushes you to be the best filmmaker that you possibly can be.
It really allows the actors to be in this environment. It gives a reality to what we're doing.
On the very first day when I met Scott, I said to him, I just need you to know that the only way I can do this jump is if I trust you and your team. So let's just right here, right now, just be completely honest with each other. Because I want to do this, I'm planning to do this, but if I don't trust you, I won't be able to do it. Where Keanu and I are very different. Keanu needed to know that how it worked. I just needed to know the people.
We took about a month of training.
All the departments were there and me and Keanu would train all morning and it was so hard.
I said, you can't be afraid. It can't be about fear in this moment. It's about something else.
It was definitely challenging. A huge portion of the time when I wasn't working was mentally preparing for that jump.
There's a lot of logistics and behind the scenes for a piece of action.
A plan was devised to how to get the actors ready to do something of this nature.
We built the rig up in stages to allow the actors particularly to be able to become comfortable with the rigging system that they're in, and also to become comfortable with the process at which the stunt took parts.
We built the exact rig that we have here. We had 9 feet in the air on a container. And then as they got comfortable there, we moved the container up to 3 containers high, which is almost 30 feet. And then we went to 5 containers high, which is about 50 feet.
I don't want to say there is danger and risk involved. There inherently is with any piece of stunt action.
It's impressive, it's scary, it's all of those things, but it's really not more dangerous than 50 feet in the air. I mean, you fall from 50 feet, it's near fatal also. The height doesn't change anything, so you sort of have to move that out of your mind.
It's important for them, you know, as human beings to overcome the fear of height, but for a performer to be able to overcome the fear of height and to still be able to perform as an actor.
And Scott was cool. He started us pretty low and then got higher and higher and higher, and they perfected the hanging part.
And we did that a number of times, and then we took that entire rig and brought it up here to the rooftop.
So what they did is they built a rig that was at the top of this one office building and then went to a kind of slightly lower office building. I would drop like 15 feet, hanging on. I guess from her, probably not 15, probably 10. And then be suspended 500 feet in the air. And a lot of people went, no. And Lana went, yes. and then Scott went, yeah. And so they went in, and then there was a moment where they wanted to like not have it happen.
The insurance company stopped us and said, this is too dangerous. We're not doing this.
You know, a lot of folks didn't want Carrie Ann and I to jump off the, was it 45th floor?
The amount of energy that came at us to try to stop us from doing this.
There was no part of me that was not going to do that.
And then Scott has a daughter who's in stunts and who was training for Trinity, and basically said to the folks that were questioning it, and Scott was just like, my daughter's done it 10 times. Do you think this isn't safe if I have my daughter doing it?
And she jumped, and the insurance guy is there, and I was like, would you do that?
And they were like, okay, great, okay. So we're gonna jump off a building.
Obviously, weather is a huge factor in whether we can do the stunt or not.
It was like we only had these tiny windows of space to jump.
So, you know, we'd be filming all night, and then it would be like the clouds, no clouds, okay, run up to the top of the building, put your costume on, get harnessed.
And we would just wait, and we'd see if the sun came out, if it was perfect. And sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't, but we went up there almost like a vigil, like a pilgrimage to this skyscraper, and we're just like, please, please, please. And then there was this moment.
3, 2, 1, go!
And they jumped, and it was, everybody was just like open mouth. It was so beautiful. This moment of like pure cinema magic, and it was really real.
It felt so fake.
Every person who jumped off the edge of that building, they came back up a different person. There was like this fire, this thing in their eye, which was like impossible. You just saw that there's something in that moment that made them change, which is jumping off a 40-story building, but like life-changing.
And this is something that, you know, 20, 30 years from now, we'll look back on. It'll be a memorable moment.
It was really, really a special day. You know, jumping off a building is extraordinary.
It was effortless and probably one of the most courageous acts that I will have ever done.
So do a recap of The Matrix, Matrix Reloaded, and Matrix Revolutions.
So I'm looking at the camera to say what the trilogy is about. Oh my God!
Wow.
I don't know, man. It's a complicated world.
Here we go. Okay, great. So The Matrix is about a guy.
Tall guy, black jacket, sunglasses.
Well, I remember Trinity in the air, slow motion, kicking the cops.
Which I'd never seen before. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
It's hard to remember details.
I can't do it. Okay.
So there's this guy.
Hello, Neo, wake up.
Thomas Anderson, but he's not really Thomas Anderson. He's actually Neo.
He's kind of a hacker dude.
Regular guy, working a mundane life.
Thomas Anderson?
Yeah, that's me.
But when he's hacking, he's on this chat forum and he meets this girl, and that's Trinity, and she tells him to meet him at this club.
He has to follow the White Rabbit. And so he goes to a club, of course, and he meets that, there she is, there's Trinity.
Hello, Neo.
And he meets this guy named Morpheus.
At last.
I remember Morpheus's head shaved, the glasses.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us.
And they say the world is actually a whole lot different than you know it.
Morpheus gives him the choice.
Does he want to know the truth or not know the truth? And those are in the form of pills.
You're either gonna take that blue pill or you're gonna take the red.
And he chooses the red pill, he wants to know the truth.
And he takes the pill.
Buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
And then Silver goes up his arm.
Welcome to the real.
So there's the real world.
Where was I? Okay,
He finds out that we are all part of a computer simulation of a machine world that is somehow harvesting human beings for literally batteries to keep their world that is now post-apocalyptic in operation.
People are plugged into this world.
Morpheus tells him, Zion needs hope. They think he's the man that's gonna change everything.
Whoa.
Then they go to the Oracle.
Not quite what you were expecting.
So the Oracle has these kids, right? And she's teaching them to bend spoons with their mind because the spoon is not real.
It was actually pretty cool. There's a really cool shot with the spoon, I remember.
And then you start to question what's real, what's not.
Deja vu.
And there's a guy named Agent Smith.
Mr. Anderson.
The machine world has a controlling program called an agent that somehow keeps the reality and the simulation in line.
He was so good, but so bad. He's unstoppable.
Human beings are a disease. And we are the cure.
Slow-mo dance.
Bullet time.
And then, of course, what the movie is really about is love.
Continuing down like the corridor of realizing who you are and like fate and destiny.
And then Neo dies.
At the end of the first movie, he's finding that perhaps more important than his personal destiny is this love that he feels for Trinity. And she saves his life with her love. And that's the end of the first movie.
And then there's a sequel, Matrix 2.
Number 2, what would be the best way to explain it?
So Reloaded, Neo and Trinity. There's still the pressure on the one.
So there's a lot of Smiths. There's a huge orgy.
He flies.
Banging the door, coming in, seeing Keanu, him going, upgrades.
Only
human. And there's a French guy.
I lost my wife, the beautiful Persephone.
The key maker. These guys that have long dreadlocks.
Oh, and then there's like the greatest car chase in film history.
Morpheus on top of the truck. I have to get the key maker.
I always loved when Neo puts his hand out and the bullets all just fall to the ground.
I love that shit so much.
Oh. It turns out that there's an architect.
Ergo.
And he's created this whole Matrix.
Bullshit.
The machine world comes to find Zion.
And this happened, and then this happened.
It's mankind's last hope.
Oh God. So in the world of Zion, there's all these people that are outside of the Matrix.
Somewhere in the middle of all this, he meets
Trinity.
Someone that he believes in and she believes in him to be the savior of all humankind.
But none of that actually really matters at the end of the day. What matters is the love.
And then in the end, Trinity dies. And then Neo.
He is the one.
Oh!
Boom!
Okay, didn't see that coming.
And then the third one, like maybe finally realizing who you are as the one or as the one.
The last vestige of humankind against the machine world, and what is our savior versus belief, self-belief. 3 is more of the same with a lot of the programs, a lot of kung fu.
Machines, guns, war.
I have a lot of guys who shoot a lot of guns.
Oh, that's so cool.
Final bouts, sacrifice.
Ah, the Merovingian.
I was waiting like a very hungry spider with one desire, the eyes of the oracle.
And then, oh my God, this is where it gets really complicated.
The dock is breached!
But then the machines have found where they all are, where humanity is.
The Sentinels, they're a big part. They're in there. That just, you know, they're just like.
And then a big war happens.
And the very end of the whole story, they end up flying in this ship into the machine city. Neo has to like save humanity.
Mr. Anderson, welcome back.
Neo fights Agent Smith. Agent Smith gets lost into the Matrix.
The Smiths get destroyed because Neo
And Smith, the dark and the light, coming together, because we all have both, and not seeing them as enemies.
Which then ultimately makes the dark side go away. And Trinity kind of sacrifices her life for her love. Neo sacrifices his life for the good of the world.
And then Neo dies with Trinity. And they love each other, and it's really sad.
You're not sure what happened. Did they die? Is it over? Or like, did he completely like save the world?
The Oracle, Sati, and the Architect walk off into the sunset.
Look, look! At the end of the day, Matrix 1, 2, and 3 is a love story that progresses through time. What is our savior versus belief, self-belief, identity, non-identity, reality, non-reality, coexistence and existential realism of who we are as a people and who we are as an individual, thrust upon us through the machine world and the battle for survival.
The entire trilogy leaves you with all these questions. That what is real?
What is reality?
Why am I here? Are we in control of ourselves?
Who the f am I? Conformity?
Why, Mr. Anderson?
Because I choose to.
There's something else that pops.
This is one really cool mind trip.
Whoa, that's what the Matrix is about.
No one can be told what the Matrix is.
It's deep.
Yeah, there's so many things.
I've lost my train of thought.
I think you're gonna have to just watch the films. I hope you enjoy them.